Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another webinar series. I hope you can hear me.
Good morning.
Okay, great. Welcome to another webinar series. Yes, please, before we commence, I would like to plead that we put ourselves on mute so that we can hear the speaker through the presentation. Okay. My name is Alessia Ezewane. On behalf of SP Lagos session, I would like to welcome you all to another webinar series. In today's session, we'll be talking about Agile methodology. Okay. Sorry, excuse me, Mr. Ewale Sadiq, can you kindly put yourself on mute? Thank you.
Yeah.
In today's session, we'll be talking about the Agile methodology. And this methodology, from my understanding, has been used by the IT industry quite a lot in managing their software development. So the Agile methodology is an approach to project management commonly used in software development and recently in the oil and gas industry. Of course, that's the reason why we're here, to see how we can apply that to our own particular industry, the oil and gas. This method's strength lies in fostering collaboration and assisting project teams to embrace unpredictability and change throughout the project's life cycle by breaking up projects into incremental, iterative work sequences, commonly known as sprints. Of course, I'm sure most of us being involved with maybe some kind of personal projects, building a house, or some of these these days where people buy houses where you have to do the foundation first, then there are different milestones. I'm guessing that is something similar, but of course we'll be hearing from the professional on this, Oseme Okenyi, who is a senior project engineer with Shell here in Lagos. She is certified by the Society for Maintenance and Reliability Professionals and the Association for Project Management. And she has 8 years experience in Shell, working across different oil fields to deliver operational excellence. And of course, that means she has used this methodology through her project management experience as well. So we'll be learning quite a lot from her today. So without much further ado, I would like to leave the floor for Oseme Okenyi for the next 40 to 45 minutes. Once more, I would like to also let us know that questions will be taken at the end of the presentation. If you do have any questions in the course of the presentation, kindly post it in the chat room and we will address your questions at the end of the presentation. Please, in order to keep the webinar orderly, I would like us to continuously keep ourselves on mute so we could hear from our presenter. Thank you very much. I hand over to Oseme. Oseme, welcome to the presentation.
Hello, and thank you for that introduction, LSA. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for dialing in. to this session. As Lisa mentioned, I'm a project engineer and I work with SNEPCO. Okay, so we're just going to run through our discussion today. I will be introducing you to Agile and giving you a breakdown of how you can use it in your work as well. Okay, this is our agenda for today. We're going to discuss what is Agile. We're going to compare Agile with many other technologies that we may be, many other methodologies that we might be more familiar with, like Waterfall and Lean. I would also be highlighting the key differences between these methodologies. I would walk you through the Agile process itself with a focus on Scrum. There are multiple ways you can do Agile, and for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to focus on only one of them, which is called Scrum. We'll discuss the benefits of Agile, when you should apply Agile, applying Agile in oil and gas, what an Agile culture would mean for you personally, and then we'll go to our Q&A. So I'm going to start with this slide, which summarizes trends that we're seeing in industry. The trends we see in industry are based on research by McKinsey. And as I read it out to you, you probably want to reflect and ask yourself, if it sounds familiar. So what we have is we have a quickly evolving environment, and that is because we have multiple stakeholders that have their demand patterns are evolving rapidly. Our customers, our partners, our regulators, they all have pressing needs. Our investors are demanding growth via acquisitions and restructuring. Our competitors and collaborators are demanding action to accommodate fast changing priorities in our industry. Another trend we see in industry is the constant introduction of disruptive technology. So we have robots, we have artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, we have the Internet of Things, and this is technology that is constantly streaming into our industry. I've heard people speak about having, for instance, an Uber for rigs. So imagine having an Uber app and you can use it to order a rig when you want it, exactly when you want it to just find the nearest rig for you to do your drilling. It sounds like science fiction, but it might not be so far away. So we have all these technologies that are coming into the industry. We have accelerating digitization and democratization of information. Everything is available at our fingertips. We can search on our internal intranets. In the past, if the head office wanted to communicate with any team that was probably far out in the field, you'd probably need to send a telex or send a fax. This day and age, you can communicate almost instantly. So the information is available and it's out there. And then another trend we see in industry is that there's a new war for talent. As multiple industries start to value the benefits of having diversity in their team, they are now having to, struggle for talent among different demographics. So whether it's young people, whether it's people from different cultures, and what we now see is that organizations need to have a distinctive value proposition to acquire and retain diverse talent. And especially for young people who value flatter hierarchies, faster learning cycles, and full ownership of end-to-end products, then we find that the traditional way of doing business is not so attractive anymore. There are many people these days who don't even want to work in the oil and gas industry because they say it's too archaic and it's too old-fashioned. So these are the trends we are seeing in industry. On the right-hand column, we have a summary of why projects fail, and this is called from the Project Management Institute. Project Management Institute says that the reasons why projects fail, one, we have a change in the organization's priorities. I've put this column here because I see it as a mirror of the column on the left. So if we say, for instance, that there is a trend in industry that will quickly have, and we have a quickly evolving environment, then of course the organization's priorities are going to change. So if it's a given that the organization's priorities are going to change, according to the Project Management Institute, then the projects are going to fail, which already puts us on the back foot, really, which means that we now have to struggle to catch up. Another reason why projects fail is that there's a change in project objectives. There's inaccurate requirements gathering. Sometimes opportunities and risks are not well defined. And again, when we come back to the fact that we have all these trends in industry with the introduction of technology, the technology that is coming in, is it an opportunity or a threat for us? Do we know? Are we set up to be able to take advantage of it? Another reason why projects fail is because of inadequate and poor communication. And you ask yourself, with all the communication tools we have at hand, how is it possible that we still have inadequate and poor communication? Is it that we don't fully understand what we have access to and how we can use it? Another reason why projects fail is an inadequate vision or goal. So I've put these two columns here just to try and set the scene for why Agile can be important and how Agile. Someone on the line who's talking, Adewale Sadiq. Adewale Sadiq is not on mute.
I am muted actually, but I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm muted, but I don't know why.
Okay, if everyone joining the call, if you could just please go on mute. Thank you. It's quiet now. Okay. So I just put this here to set the scene for why Agile is important and to just get us thinking about where.
I confirm I'm muted now.
Well, it still says speaking Adewale Sadiq, but okay, now you're muted. Nobody is speaking but me. Okay, thank you.
Wow.
All right.
All right, thank you.
And oops, too fast. So what is Agile? This is the dictionary definition. Agile means quick and well coordinated in movement, lithe, active and lively, marked by an ability to think quickly, mentally, acute or aware, marked by a ready ability to move with quick, easy grace, having a quick, resourceful, and adaptable character. So what Agile tells us here is that it's not just about physical ability. Oh, the person is very agile. She moves in an agile way. It's also about mental flexibility and mental acuity. So being mentally and physically agile, which is what is asked of us when we are practicing agile. When we speak about agile, though, as a project management framework, away from the dictionary definition, someone.
Okay. Sorry. Oseme. Adewale Sadiq, you may have to be logged off the session and redial since you do not have control over your audio. Okay. Kindly log off and redial in. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead. So when we speak about Agile as a project management framework, what does that mean? One, it starts with having a shared vision that is robust to change. So a shared vision means the team is united around one vision. Robust to change means it's anti-fragile. So the concept of anti-fragility speaks about organisms or systems where the more pressure you apply to them, the stronger they become, the more resilient they become. A classic example is in the human body, our bones. So when our bones break, when they form back, apparently they form back stronger than before. That's a system that is anti-fragile. So for Agile is robust to change. It welcomes change. It wants there to be change. It wants there to be variability because that's how it delivers value. Whole teams means that whatever solution is being built, the customer, the end user of that process is very much a part of the team that is building it. So it's not a scenario where you build something and you share it with the customer and the customer says, no, that's not what I wanted, or no, I don't accept it. If the customer is part of the process all through, then acceptance is pretty much just a paper activity. It's already been done. Agile focuses on incremental delivery. So for Agile, the value is in putting all the work, having the work delivered in bits, as opposed to having it all prepared and then shipped as an entire product at the end. And I'll talk about an analogy later. We also talk about continuous integration and testing. So the teams test increments early and often. They don't wait till the end of the project before we now test to see if it works. At every point in time, you're testing to be sure that it's working so that when you ship it, eventually the customer or the end user already has something to use. And I'll give you an instance. So all of us, many of us have smartphones. You know how when you buy, and the smartphone companies release phones every 18 months. So you buy an iPhone and from the moment you open the box, you can use the iPhone. But in a month or 2 months time, they will send you a notification that you need to update the iOS. And so that's an example of people who are doing incremental delivery. There's always something to improve. If they waited for the iPhone to be complete and the iOS to be perfect before they shipped it and they sold it, you would probably have to wait 7 or 8 years to get a new phone because the work would never end. But because they are able to work in an agile fashion from the get-go, they deliver a product to you that you can always use. And then a few months later, they send you an update and you're like, wow, these people are making this thing better and better. So there's always value being added. That's what is meant by incremental delivery. So just something to think about in our work as we walk through this presentation. Agile itself is codified into what is called the Agile Manifesto. So in 2001, a bunch of software developers got together on a mountain in Utah. They went on a retreat and they came up with this manifesto. And the manifesto says that we value the items on the left more than the items on the right. So we value customer collaboration over contract negotiation. If there are any contracting personnel, contracting or procurement professionals on the call, they're probably having goosebumps listening to this, but this is what it is. And it's not even just about formal contracts. In all the work that we do at work, different places, we are always negotiating implicitly or explicitly contract. Agile says we value collaboration with the customer over any contract negotiation. So we'll go above and beyond whatever is written in any contract if that's what makes the customer happy. Agile values individuals and interactions over processes and tools. If we had to choose between following the process and having individuals interacting with each other, we would pick individuals interacting with each other. Because according to Agile, that's where the real value is in people getting together and speaking together and interacting together as opposed to following processes and tools. Agile values responding to change over following a plan. Because Agile recognizes that plans can change, priorities can change, and you need to be nimble enough to respond to that. So we will respond to change the best way that we can if it means that we have to leave the plan. And then finally, Agile values having a working product over full documentation. And full documentation also in this sense can refer to red tape and bureaucracy and all the checks and balances and sign-offs that we need to do in the course of doing our work. Now, it's not to say that the items on the right don't make sense. It's that while there is value on items in the right, we value items on the left more. So that's what Agile says in a nutshell. And if we had to choose between doing lots of paperwork over delivering a product that works to the customer's satisfaction, we will deliver the product first. We will spend our man hours delivering the product before we start to prepare any documentation. So that's the Agile Manifesto. If you go on the Agile website, they have this manifesto written out in multiple languages from all over the world. I found it very interesting that one of the languages it is written in is Yoruba. So if anyone wants to check out the website, you can go read this in Yoruba. And I'm hoping that it will probably be translated into more Nigerian languages in the future. But just goes to show you how universal this manifesto is. Now I'm going to walk you through a comparison between Agile and other methodologies that you might be familiar with already. So for many of us, we are familiar with this framework. This is called the Waterfall Framework for delivering projects. We probably use it to different extents in our work and in our various companies. So you start with an idea, you build the business case for it, you submit it for approval, management approves it, and then you start to build it. At every point in time, you have decision gates or reviews that are done to prepare it for decision gates. In Shell, for instance, we call it DG1, DG2, DG3, DG4. So you have different decision gates before the idea crosses over into maturation. In developing the idea, you start with the requirement. Okay, what is required for this work? You identify all the requirements you require. You assess them. You define, you select, you define. You start to design. When you've done your detailed design and all, you implement. After implementation, you do your test, you check, you verify that it's working. You hand it over to whoever is going to be using it, whether it's the operations team or another team, and then they start to run with it. So what this means is that at the end, the only time the end users have contact with whatever the idea is when it's handed over to them. And everything goes, like a waterfall, like a staircase, one after the other, one after the other. This is the traditional framework in brief. when we are done using whatever product it is, we discard it and we move on to the next one. For Agile, it follows pretty much the same process. So at the beginning, so you have an idea, you build a business case, you make a proposal, it's approved. But the difference between Agile and Waterfall is that at every point in time, instead of spending all the time doing identifying, selecting, defining, and assessing whatever it is you want to build, you start to build it immediately. Once you build it, you ship it. The customer says, okay, I like this. They give you feedback on what they like and they don't like. You take that into building the next iteration of the product. So at every point in time, the same product, you're making multiple iterations of it. And you keep doing that for the entire life cycle of the product. So it's not a matter of, oh, I've built that plant, or I've delivered that well, or I've finished that work, and on to the next one, leave it for the operations team to run. It's that the team that builds is always involved in the entire life cycle of use of that product or project, and then eventually it is discarded. I'll go into detail of the Agile process in a bit. I just wanted to show you this infographic. A number of us might be familiar with Lean. So, if people think about Agile, they might be thinking, okay, this sounds a lot like Lean. And you'd be right. In fact, there are methods of Agile that lean very heavily on Lean thinking, Lean methodology. Well, what's the difference? So, like I've pointed out earlier, Waterfall takes each stage of the process one after the other. It's sequential, it's a staircase, it just goes down all the way to operate. For Lean, we take a piece of work, the same piece of work, we plan, we do, we check, we act. So it just keeps going around and around on the same piece of work. What Agile does is you take that piece of work, you build it. So it starts from the plan, you design it, you develop it, you test it, you deploy, you review, you launch, you get the feedback, you go back and you add that feedback with other root is can you go on mute? Thank you. So you take the feedback and then you take other elements of the work that you haven't built in before and you iterate that product again. So it keeps going on and on and on. That's a key difference in a nutshell. On this slide, I've done a table that shows also some differences between Agile, traditional, and Lean. Now, in any projects that we're doing, we have three elements that you must always consider in your project.